Assembly and installation of swing-out toolboards. Your swing-out toolboard kit will arrive as several separate sub-assemblies. A partially assembled swing-out tool panel with end caps, hinges, and with barrel fasteners for the slam latches pre-installed on both sides. A pivot base assembly for the hinges and fully open latch base. A pivot latch mount assembly for latching the fully closed position. And an accessory kit including the slam latches, the top pivot bearing plate, handle, and fasteners. Note, it is assumed that you purchase the PMF Frame kit separately. If your tool panel was part of the original specs for building and equipping your vehicle, the equipment manufacturer would have had access to the backside of your compartment walls during fabrication and would have been able to use nut and bolt construction for these panels during installation. In the event that your vehicle is already built and you will mount these panels yourself, prior to drilling, it is still highly recommended that you contact your vehicle manufacturer to verify that there are no tanks, wiring harnesses, or similar hazards located immediately behind where you intend to drill. Armed with this information, you are ready to begin. For compartments made of steel or aluminum, most end users will mount using self-tapping fasteners. For stainless steel compartments, where galling may occur, users may decide to drill and tap using machine screws and lock washers, for example. While each installation can be different, the important things to consider are standard industry practices for safety, corrosion protection, as well as a schedule of periodic checks to ensure that the fasteners remain snug year after year. We're going to show you a typical method for bolting these into position. Tools that you may need are a tape measure, a transfer punch and a hammer or other marker, a screw gun with Phillips bit and an appropriate tip for your chosen fasteners, possibly a drill, tap, and lubricant, a 7/16 hex wrench, framing square, level, possibly some adhesive tape, and as always, wear appropriate eye protection and safety gear. Mount the pivot mount base assembly. Inspect your tool panel and verify that the opposing pivot hinge blocks are in line and that the leading edge of the blocks is a minimum of 3 5/8 inch from the outside edge of the tool board. Your tool board will have barrel pins pre-installed on both sides. Position the tool board with the barrel pins favoring the bottom edge. Dry fit your partially assembled tool board and pivot mounting base with the fully open pivot latch facing you into the compartment and position to suit your equipment mounting requirements. Carefully balance the swing-out toolboard through the close and open positions to check for obstructions. Also, verify that the compartment door has no interference with the pivot mounting base module. Carefully remove the toolboard and square the pivot latch mounting base to the compartment walls and mark the attachment holes through the Z-mount mounting holes of the base. Using 2 of your self-tapping fasteners, drill through the center of the pre-drilled holes in the Z-mount channel ends and permanently attach the assembly to the floor. Mount the exterior door handle. With the panel's swing orientation known, mount the door handle on the outside face of the panel. The location of the handle is the user's preference, but most users prefer to mount it immediately behind the panel's U-channel edge. Mount the exterior slam latch. The panel will come with barrel pins pre-installed on each side for you to mount the slam latches. For the exterior slam latch, slide the barrel pins toward the swing-out end, rather than the hinge end, of the tool board and loosely locate the associated latch base, verifying that there are no obstructions. Mount the exterior slam latch to the provided barrel pins. Mount the pivot latch mount assembly. With the slam latch mounted, position the associated pivot latch mount such that when the panel is closed, the latch fully engages and the panel is parallel to the back wall. To keep the fully closed panel parallel to the back wall, the far face of the pivot latch mount assembly should be approximately 1 5/8 inches further from the back wall of the compartment than the back Z-mount edge of the pivot base assembly. Square the pivot latch mounting base to the compartment walls and mark the attachment holes through the Z-mount mounting holes. Using 2 of your self-tapping fasteners, drill through the center of the pre-drilled holes in the Z-mount channel and permanently attach to the floor. Dry fit to get the height and depth for your PMF frame. With an extra set of hands, slip the top pivot bearing plate assembly over the top pivot hinge of the panel and hold the panel into its intended resting position. Measure from the floor of the compartment to the top of the pivot bearing plate and record this dimension. It will be used to determine the height to mount the PMF frame. Remove the swing-out panel and measure from the back wall to the center line of the bottom bearing and record this dimension. Transfer that depth dimension to both of the side walls of the compartment because it will represent the center line of the side supports for your PMF frames that you will be mounting. Here are some notes regarding the PMF frames. When building the corner joints of the PMF frames, note that the upper PMF support will butt up against the face of the side supports. It is intended to be a tight fit. The top edge of the upper support can be flush with the top edge of the side supports. However, we might suggest giving yourself an inch or so of overhang on the upper end of the side supports to allow for easier drilling and also final adjustments during installation. Mount the PMF side supports. You now know the center line for your PMF side supports, as well as the height that you wish to mount them. They should be mounted equal distance and parallel to the back wall, and they should be set to the same height and allow room for adjustment if possible. Using at least 2 self-tapping fasteners at approximately 1.5 inches from each end of the side supports as a guideline, drill through the center of the unistrut track of the side supports and fasten them directly to the compartment wall. Do this for each side support. Attach the upper PMF frame support. Leaving yourself at least 1 inch from the side support tops, loosely attach both PT corner connectors to the side supports using the provided fasteners. Next, loosely mount the top pivot bearing plate to the upper PMF rail and position it approximately in line with the mounted bottom pivot bearing plate. When complete, get a second set of hands to rest and support the swing-out panel into position, and lower the upper support rail assembly with a bearing plate onto these PT connectors and align the pivot bearing. Some repositioning of the upper bearing may be necessary to allow the toolboard to swing freely without any interference. Verify square and snug fit with the top bearing. Once in final position, tighten all fasteners. Attach the final slam latch. Carefully swing the panel open. The panel came with barrel pins pre-installed on the back side for you to mount the final slam latch. For this interior latch, slide the barrel pins toward the pivot hinge end of the toolboard and locate the slam latch for full engagement with the mating latch base when the panel is in fully open position. Mount the interior slam latch to the provided barrel pins on the panel. That's it. You have just installed a swing-out tool panel. If you have any questions about this installation process, please give us a call. We would be happy to help. View our other videos online for additional tips and information.